Ainda digo mais. Esse mapa aí é o primeiro mundo do jogo.
Sim. Mas tu não consegue configurar o fundo da câmera pra você ir?
E onde fica essa opção?
Eu vou ter o mouse em cima da opção da câmera e escolher feito de tela de fundo. É só deixar o mouse.
Não tem como.
Aí apareceu esse outros
Aí, ó.
pronto, estamos no mesmo local. Tá legal, tá maneiro.
Isso o Discord não tem. Cadê o Discord?
Não tem. Ó, agora acho que foi, hein?
Bora, vou ver.
O que? O chat do YouTube?
Não, a imagem mesmo.
Do chat do YouTube desde que começou.
Que vai abrir um
vai passar pro desenvolvimento.
Ele vai abrir um chamado pra ver.
Puta.
Já conhece. O YouTube já ama a Twitch, né?
Mano, os caras não se gostam, com certeza.
Aqui nessa tela aqui, se deixar o chat ali, cabe mais uma pessoa ainda.
Isso o quê?
Na tela da live, se você deixar o chat, cabe mais uma pessoa ainda.
Cabe.
Assim dizer.
Qualquer coisa a gente tira a porra do chat e foda-se também, né, velho?
Aí cabe mais duas.
Cabe, gente, velho, pô. É no Skype, né, que agora dá pra pôr o fundo de tela também. Vou pôr um fundo de tela, mano, todo mundo tá pondo essa porra.
Onde eu coloco isso?
Só manter o mouse em cima da opção de câmera ali, onde você desativaria a câmera e tem a escolha efeito de fundo de tela.
Tem que parar.
Não precisa parar. Não precisa parar, é só...
É na barrazinha que fica embaixo da câmera de vocês.
Onde tem o telefone, câmera e microfone?
Isso é só o mouse em cima da câmera e pronto. Ou se não, ali no mais, né, tem uns três pontinhos, tem escolha efeito de fundo de tela. Aí também já... Porque tem o chat compartilhado.
Pra quem não tem Chrome aqui.
Rapaz, eu vou te deixar só deixa. Ô, droga, desativei minha câmera sem querer. Vou te dar deixa. Só que, ó, cara. Aí, ó, cara. O meu tem, mas só que só tá desconfigurado aqui, velho.
Cara, no meu não tem. Ó, se eu parar o mouse em cima da câmera, ele vai para configurações de webcam e dá para mim selecionar a minha câmera. A configuração de webcam é aquela configuraçãozinha padrão, brilho, contraste.
Então ali nesse do lado tem um menuzinho assim, chat, compartilhar a tela, reagir, mais isso, aí tem escolha o efeito de tela de fundo.
Não. Configurações de áudio e vídeo, colocar chamada. Mano, eu baixei direto lá no site.
Mas será que você... É porque, tipo assim, o Windows ele tem um Skype automático. Será que você não... Só inicializou?
Não, eu inicializei porque eu baixei de lá do site do Skype. Quer ver? Deixa eu fazer um negócio aqui.
Isso tá todo mundo vendo a gente, nós estamos online.
O mundo inteiro.
Aí você chega, batemos a live do Gaules, né? 20 mil pessoas vendo nossa live.
Seria 1% da live do Gaules.
Vocês estão vendo o site que eu tô? Compartilhei minha tela aí.
Não. Agora tudo.
Aqui, pô.
Não, foi de onde eu baixei. Ah, mas você baixou pra desce não. Tá certo. Não, isso.
Será que tem
Será
alguma...
que na sua versão do Windows não é compatível com os recursos?
Cara, será que tem nada a ver com o Windows preview, né? Será ou não?
Não.
Zoado.
Oi, você usa Google Chrome.
Eu uso, cara. Não consigo livrar desse de memória.
Cara, depois saiu o novo Edge, meu Deus do céu.
Eu tô usando o Edge, mas agora eu tô usando o Opera.
Pô, eu usava o Opera GX, cara. Eu gostava, tá ligado?
Eu também é.
Esse mesmo eu tô usando.
Mas aí, cara,
na memória usa e tal.
mas é novo Edge, cara.
Então, eu não saía do Fox. Aí eu comecei a usar Chrome.
Mas é só o chat do YouTube tá funcionando ou a live também não tá...
Não, só o chat. É que a gente manda o chat, a gente não recebe na telinha pra ver o que tá.
Quer ver? Eu vou tentar um... Não, tá, é só o chat do YouTube só.
O quê?
Eu queria pôr alguma coisa aqui, tipo, que tá ao vivo do...
Lá vem.
Vai botar Masterchef, velho.
Putz, que merda, mas eu vou pôr.
Vai botar uma live do algum
Nossa, aqui, ó, sensacional, gente, eu vou pôr. Como se a gente estivesse tendo um evento, né? Então,
só cuidado com os strikes, não tá coisa aqui.
Não. Aqui, ó.
Os strikes.
Muta. Se tiver muita, baixa por causa dos strikes aí.
Ver.
Ô, passa o nosso canal do YouTube aí, também na Twitch.
Mania, Brasil.
Gente. Deixa eu ver aqui.
Xbox Mania Brasil. Mas aí tem como se encerrar, não é possível. O que é pra botar em tela cheia?
Ué, como é que põe em tela cheia, hein?
Pela risadinha do Miguel, ele tá sendo sacanagem. Pela risadinha, ele tá vindo.
Ainda não tem o personalizado, né? Dá pra colocar youtube.com/mania.
É que eu não tô pesquisa do YouTube, não.
Só coloca o próprio YouTube.
Mas eu coloquei, eu achei.
Achei.
Então não sei.
O Theo fez para fazenda? Largados pelados?
Que porra é essa? Era pra ser um negócio ao vivo, mas o vídeo do cara acabou, velho. Porra, mano. Como assim, cara? Eu acho que... Deixa eu ver.
Comenta isso aí.
Ao vivo? Muito bom.
Alguém jogando um jogo maneirinho.
Não tem como comentar isso aí, rapaz.
DK pistola.
Mais justa pra nós aqui, vai.
Daí sim.
Não.
Eu tô.
Os caras conseguem dar risada ali.
Que beleza. Ó. Estão vendo aí?
Eu acho que o. Eu acho que eu usando fotogrametria para fazer esses gráficos.
As imagens de fundo, elas estão...
Tá aparecendo aquele cenário de Mortal Kombat 3, um templo lá, que as velhinhas ficam na frente.
Elas são muito grandes. Nessa vela cair ali, pega fogo na porra do jogo.
Eu acho que esse CGI não é in-game.
Pra renderizar.
Que pariu. Olha.
Isso aí é
Realmente
certeza.
Vai sair em 2024.
Cara. Só. Tem um esquema.
Pra mim não apareceu.
Amém, pastor. Amém. Padre, aliás.
Tô com o padre tá sendo. Tá sendo. Aí agora o zoom.
Oh, é grande a igreja.
Não é grande. Não tenho.
Não?
Eu não tô escutando nada. Deixa eu ver também. Eu não tô escutando da live.
Não tem a live aqui também.
Só que se eu ligo lá, o som da live, tudo duplicado.
Eu também botei a live aqui. Ó, vocês podem ver que lá atrás, naquele monitor curvo lá, ó.
Wide screen,
formato 21/9, não é wide ainda.
Meu Deus.
Não.
Sim.
Pela live tá montado. Não fica ruim.
Ó, vocês estão ouvindo agora? Padre ou não?
Já que tá aqui, tenta configurar essa tela pra já configura os layouts certinho pra jogar.
Um lugar aqui, mas...
Relaxa. As proporções das câmeras.
Porque acho que tá secado na live.
Tá cheia?
O áudio.
Você tá usando o que? O OBS?
Tá saindo complicado, sim.
Da web? Tô.
Isso.
Tá duas vezes.
Acho que é porque a gente tá com a live aberta, cara. Não é?
Não, se todo mundo ficar quieto, a gente só escutar a live, vai estar duplicado o som.
Não, sim, eu sei, você escutar a live, entendeu?
Eu também, só que eu botei a live, porque senão fica tudo duplicado.
Não, acho que os caras experimentou, ouça só a live, tem muita gente pra você ver.
Tá.
Eu quero ver como é que eu vou montar aqui. Pô, acabou a missa, mano. Oh, viado, que merda. Pera aí, vamos pôr outra coisa aqui ao vivo.
Eu botei o Skype agora tá de boa. Apesar que a live tá encerrada, mas tá tranquilo.
Ó, vamos pegar um vídeo aqui, vamos pôr. Web.
Alô.
Ó, eu tô ouvindo, mas eu quero ouvir a... Eu quero ouvir só a... Como é que eu vou mutar essa porra aqui?
Tá de boa agora.
Tá, né? É que eu, como retorno, eu não escuto o meu áudio. Entendeu? Eu escuto só o de vocês, só. E o áudio que tá rodando do vídeo aqui. Deixa eu abrir o meu áudio aqui.
Alô, 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 alô.
Oi. Tá tudo normal, a gente só tá ouvindo o som do vídeo, né? Som do vídeo do YouTube.
Não tá ouvindo o som do YouTube?
Então, você tá montando e lendo.
Tá mutado.
Não tá ouvindo meu
Então,
som?
tá mutado. Eu acho que ele pensa que não é gente.
Mas eu vou pra live agora.
Tá. Testando.
Ok.
Se o Gabriel pode. Se quiser, o Gabriel pode cantar.
Eu tô ouvindo vocês, cara. Eu ouço vocês.
Eu não faço leitura labial.
Pura imagem, ó.
Não sou formado em leitura labial.
Não, eu vou escrever aqui, ó. Não no Telegram. Eu ouço vocês. Agora o restante. Deixa eu ver. Vocês não estão ouvindo ainda não, né? Minha voz? Por acaso. Vocês estão ouvindo meu som agora ou não? Nada? Não? Não tô ouvindo nem vocês agora.
Nada, não.
Eu só escuto na live.
Só na live?
Não.
Que estranho. Que meu áudio ele tá sendo duplicado aqui pra mim. Eu tenho que parar ele, senão eu vou ficar ouvindo.
Aqui aparece todo mundo mutado pra mim.
Então, aqui pra mim também. O Leandro e o Thelmo mutado. No
Que
Skype.
estranho.
Não no Skype. No Skype.
Ah, no Skype?
Agora sim. Eu te ouvia na live. Eu te ouvia no Skype.
Mas o Leandro ele tá mutado.
Ah, tá. Não, beleza.
Agora não tá mais.
Não.
Sim.
O Leandro tá mutado, realmente.
Sim, tá bom. Só não tô ouvindo o vídeo. Vocês ouçam tranquilo.
Então, os volumes da live acho que todo mundo tá ouvindo, né?
Não, foi na live. Pera, vou tentar ouvir de novo.
O som do vídeo vocês não ouvem? Não, no Skype vocês não vão ouvir, mas e na live vocês escutam o som do vídeo?
Não.
Conseguiu ouvir aí, Leandro?
Não.
Você está mutado no Skype de novo, então. É que alguém mutando a gente. Acho que é o Gabriel.
Do coisa eu também não tô ouvindo. Tô ouvindo pra mim aqui porque tá rodando. Mas eu tô escutando. Puta. Oh,
Não, eu tô me voltando. É isso.
Também não.
eu não tô ouvindo o... Deixa eu ver. Eu não tô ouvindo o vídeo na live. Eu escuto o som aqui porque tá no meu retorno, entendeu?
Gabriel só na pinga.
Tá aqui, ó, o web tá
Cuida essa terça, né?
e ao vídeo.
Nunca mais fiz isso, não.
Vamos ver.
O Gabriel tá com um copo de cachaça na mão, hein?
Procurar.
Olha o tamanho do copo de cachaça.
Hi there guys
Vai
and
ser
welcome
grande,
to
vai ser grande.
Xbox On. It's Bex here and we've got another set of
Tem que se hidratar,
fantastic
for
deals for you on the Microsoft Store.
hidratando.
This week there are two big sales from two of the biggest publishers
Só
in
que esse,
games, Ubisoft and
dá pra
Capcom,
ver.
which means Henry and I have got some absolute gems for you at deep discounts. First, let's start with
Eu não falei, cara?
Ubisoft.
Deixa eu ver se dá pra ver.
Pô, da hora.
Na live não.
A ton of new details on three massive
Eu acho que
upcoming
eu
games:
tenho
Far Cry 6,
não gostou do que eu
Watch
falei,
Dogs
do que eu
Legion,
falei.
and Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Cara, eu
This
tô
sale is the perfect chance to catch up on all three series with discounts on the most recent installments, which in Assassin's Creed's case means featuring the biggest open world in the history of the series.
Vocês estão conseguindo ver ali, ó?
Caraca, quanto copo.
And it's 65% knocked off the price of the game's
Eu comprei
Ultimate
todos,
Edition.
comprei todos,
Agora o
ultimamente.
som
Tô ouvindo, o volume da live,
You can even hop across the Atlantic and the millennia to the American Revolution in
Tô
remasters of both
ouvindo.
Assassin's Creed 3 and Liberation. And while you're working your way through all of that, you can now officially pre-order Valhalla on the Microsoft Store, ready for its launch on the 17th of November. As well as the base game, that'll get you access to a bonus mission called The Way of the Berserker.
And
Legal.
from the distant past, next we're off to the near future with Watch Dogs.
Sim, eu
The
tô
first
ouvindo
two
na...
games
Eu
in
tô
the
ouvindo
series
na...
take
O vídeo tá
place in
saindo. O
sci-fi
vídeo tá
versions
saindo.
Eu tô
of
tendo
Chicago and
o
San
eco
Francisco,
do-
letting you bend the city to your
de
will by
vocês
hacking
aqui.
it. You get to take control of
pra mim
everything,
aqui, tipo,
from
tá indo os
security
dois sons.
cameras to traffic lights, and even cars to give you an edge on your enemies. The second game adds a remote control car and drone to your arsenal, and that's being expanded even further in the upcoming sequel Watch Dogs Legion, something we discovered in our recent hands-on time with the game. And we've just got a release date for Legion. It's coming out on the 29th of October.
Eu tô ouvindo lá. O vídeo tá saindo.
Só que a nossa voz tá duplicada.
Então,
Third big
acho que
announcement
enquanto o
from Ubisoft.
momento tava com o microfone aberto, depois parou de sair duplicado.
Eu acho que o problema
Acho que agora tá bom.
Dictatorship. But if you need to catch up, you can grab the last main installment in the series with a whopping 80%
Agora
off the
travou
gold
a
edition
transmissão.
this week.
Olha,
Far Cry 5
mutei
is
na live, dá pra ver a live perfeito. Pela live dá pra escutar vocês também.
And where it all ends,
Aqui também.
well,
Aqui
let's
também.
just say it creates some
Só que se
interesting
ativar, deixar a voz,
And
deixar
again,
a
this
voz
is the
duplicada,
gold
daí fica
edition of the
duplicado,
game,
entendeu?
which means that on top of the game
Deixar o
itself,
vídeo
you get
ligado,
three
deixar o vídeo
expansions that
ligado.
change things up totally. blasting you off to Mars, a zombie apocalypse, and
por
the
isso que a gente tem que
Vietnam War.
pegar
As if
e
that wasn't
o...
enough, you also get an
Ó, aqui
updated
mostrou
version
que
of Far Cry
o
3,
Fernando
which is
ajudou todo
arguably
mundo, ó
the
lá.
best game.
O Fernando mudou todo mundo.
Rounding out the Ubisoft sale are two great games for fans of tactical shooting, elite military operatives, and all that other Tom Clancy goodness. Starting with the deluxe edition of Rainbow Six Siege for 70% off. In this competitive shooter, you're split into teams of 5, either defending or attacking an objective, with the added complication that maps can be blown to bits using bombs, sledgehammers, or whatever special abilities your character is packing. This deluxe edition significantly expands that armory with 16 extra options.
Prefer Ghosts to Rainbow. There's going to be 65% off Ghost Points Ultimate Edition. This one puts you into a squad of 4, with the role of your squad mates either filled by friends on your Xbox Live, or thanks to a free update. This week, AI agents, if you made solo,
Mutar a live,
unlike your friends, they'll actually follow. Either way, you'll be
Mas a
facing
gente
off
vai citar o
against
som da live, vai citar o som da live, né?
elite enemy
Do vídeo.
operators led by John Bernthal. Yeah, him off the telly. And if you've got an Xbox One X, there are 2 enhanced modes to choose from, graphics and resolution, which will make sure that you can enjoy Mr. Bernthal's face in all of its HD glory.
Now, I've seen everything. What the? What is that? What is that?
Okay, now let's jump over to the Capcom sale, with offers on some of the legendary Japanese publishers' biggest hits, like, for example, a little game called Resident Evil, specifically number 7, aka Biohazard, which also happens to be the name of the first game in Japan, confusingly enough. But it actually makes a lot of sense, because this is a bit of a fresh start for the survival horror series. 7 was the first game to use the RE engine, which has done an amazing job of reviving Resi 2 and 3 in the remakes. And it also switches things up by moving the action from Raccoon City to a creepy Louisiana swamp, and jumping to a first-person perspective for some truly in-your-face scares. The game's getting a direct sequel with next year's Resident Evil Village, so this is a perfect chance to get
Next up, another game that takes stunning advantage of the RE engine with 50% off Devil May Cry 5.
Se todo mundo usar fone,
Doing it with
dá pra ouvir a live, dá pra ouvir a live ao mesmo tempo que sem interceptar no som da... O som da live vai ser só os fones, não vai ser só
Eu acho que vai dar um delay muito grande, cara. E o delay vai de um pra outro, entendeu?
Isso aqui vai te delay, cara. Isso aqui vai te delay, cara. É delay. Seu ponto é delay.
Não tô falando pela live não. Tô falando pela live não. Na live da Xbox mesmo. Na live da Xbox mesmo. Cada um vai assistir a live no seu computador, tá reunião no Skype. Não precisa dividir o áudio. Não vai sair do OneCast, vão ouvir a live, não vai sair do fone, não vai sair do microfone.
Yeah, don't mind if I do.
But maybe the single most legendary Capcom
Exatamente, cada um vai ter seu próprio feed.
E a gente vai ter que pra sincronizar o time, né? De cada um, pra ninguém ficar atrasado, muito adiantado, muito atrasado.
Acho que igualzinho, mas dá pra deixar
É porque senão vai ter spoiler aí, a gente deu spoiler aí.
Street Fighter 2 Turbo vs. Champion Edition, or you're looking for an entry point to gaming history, this collection is
perfect. But, and bear with me, but what if you took all of the Capcom games that we've mentioned so far, put them in a blender, and then threw in a ton of Marvel? You'd either have Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite or a very, very messy kitchen.
Sim, mas a gente
This is a fighting game where you can pit Chun-Li against Captain America, or find out who's the biggest bad between Thanos and Nemesis. And if that's not enough to sell you on Infinite, or you can play it as part of the
Agora apareceu o bloco cinza de novo.
Eu sei que não
monstrous deal, 40% off
compartilhamento de detalhe é melhor, mas é menos dali, né?
Iceborne takes already massive Monster Hunter world and adds a whole new region. the wintry hoarfrost
Sim, sim, sim.
along with a
Só vai dizendo que você tá vendo agora, Thelma, só pra gente ver se tá de acordo com o que a gente tá vendo.
Did I forget
Sim.
something?
Vocês
Oh
estão
yeah,
enxergando ainda lá?
more monsters. And they keep on
Sim.
coming too,
Tá,
with
tá
great
bem-
updates that
só
just
tá um
last
pouco,
week
tipo,
introduced fire breathing,
tá
electrical,
tipo,
and
sim,
frostbound
sim,
barriers.
sim.
This is an expansion that just keeps on expanding. Know that you
Não
do need
tá
to
nem
use
aí
game to
essa
play
então
Iceborne, but
sim.
it's included in Xbox Game Pass, meaning as long as
Aqui
you're a
tá também.
subscriber,
Ela tá segurando ele, né? O jogo parece escada. Apareceu os
So
guardas,
there
apareceu
you have it, another pile of
o cara
amazing
falou no
deals to get
guarda.
stuck into.
O cara falou
If you're new to the channel, we do these every single week, so make sure to subscribe, hit that bell for
Tá com muito
notifications,
tá vídeo
and
muito
another bargain again.
o frame rate tá
Grab any of this
baixíssimo.
week's deals,
E
let
agora
us know
apareceu
in
aquela
the
tela
comments,
assim.
and give us a like. Go on, you know.
vídeo tá no LOL.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Pode assim, ó. Cada um pega esse vídeo que ele tá assistindo aí, tenta assistir outro no PC. Tá cada um no fone. Isso aí você cada um sabe.
Hey everybody, I'm Bo Moore and I'm joined once again by Jason Ronald, one of the lead engineers of the Xbox Series X. Jason, thanks for joining me again.
Porque é o seguinte, o que acontece?
Hey Bo, it's great to be back with you.
É,
So this week we are talking
Se a gente
about the
pegar,
Xbox Velocity
por mais
architecture.
pontos tiver,
Tell me just what does that
fora,
mean, Jason?
mais a gente vai derrubando
Sure. You know, when we said design of the Xbox Series X, we really focus on analyzing every part of the end-to-end ecosystem in the Xbox Series X. So one of the things that we did is we went out and reached out to our first-party and our third-party developers to really get feedback from them on what they were looking for in a next-generation
Pra vocês e pra
console.
quem tá
And one of the things that became very clear early on is we were really focused on how do we revolutionize and reinvent the traditional I/O infrastructure, and that resulted in the Xbox Velocity architecture, which we really think of as the ultimate solution for game asset streaming, and it comprises four major components. First is the custom NVMe SSD drive. Second is our dedicated hardware decompression blocks. Third is a brand new direct storage API, and fourth is sampler feedback streaming, which really brings all four of those components together.
So that is a lot of technical jargon, so let's break these elements down one by one. So start off, tell me about the SSD.
Sure. So the custom NVMe SSD at the heart of the Xbox Velocity architecture is really the foundation that really enables all of these next-gen capabilities that we're talking about. It delivers 2.4 gigabytes per second in raw I/O throughput, and that's really just the foundation that everything builds on top of.
So what is different, if anything, about this SSD in the Series X as compared to current top-of-the-line PC?
We really designed this SSD to really focus on sustained, consistent performance and ultra-low latency so that we can stream assets off of the NVMe SSD as quickly as possible into memory to make it available when it needs it.
Now, as I understand it, a lot of PC SSDs, one of the problems they have is they tend to overheat. What is, at least when they're having that really sustained throughput, what's the Series X SSD doing to prevent that kind of problem?
So it's a combination of some of the design choices we actually made in the hardware, things like ensuring that we had the optimal design for cooling to keep the drive at its highest capability. At the same time, there's also custom firmware built on top of it as well, so that we have much more control over how the drive is actually being used, both at the system level as well as at the title level.
So up next, we have hardware accelerated decompression. What does that mean?
Sure. So game assets are often compressed to make the assets fit better on disk or to minimize your download sizes. And one of the things that's really important is that when you're actually decompressing the assets, if you're to do it with software alone, it would take a number of the Zen 2 CPU cores in the Xbox Series X, and that would actually take away from allowing game developers to fully use those CPU cores to make the game better. So what we did is we had a dedicated hardware decompression block so that we can actually optimize the decompression while it's happening in real time, so that the game can just focus on making their game great, and then we can handle all the low details of actually getting the data off of the SSD, decompress it, and put it into memory.
Next is Direct Storage API. Tell me about that.
Bom, vamos ver. Mas funcionou isso.
The traditional file I/O APIs were actually written 30 years ago, and obviously technology has fundamentally changed since that time with the invention of SSD technology. So one of the things that we did is we really looked at how games would take advantage of this new technology that we're delivering, and we realized that we needed to give developers more direct control over how they actually use this hardware. So as an example, now a developer can be much more precise in what assets they need, when they need them. They can manage their eye operations. So if you think about it, if I'm in a large open world, if I teleport from one part of the map to the next part of the map, the developer has a lot more control of how quickly they can stream those assets in, so that you have a fast travel system that's just that. Also, when you think about it as, you know, you're traveling through a world, you don't want to have things like pop-in, where, you know, an objects or textures start streaming in, and you can kind of see that visual difference. So with the Direct Storage API, developers have that fine-grained control to make sure that developers, or I'm sorry, the gamers get that truly immersive experience no matter what kind of game they're playing.
So you said that sampler feedback streaming is what sort of brings it all together. So how does that work?
Yes, sampler feedback streaming is one of the things that we did. One of the things that we did with the Xbox One X is we actually had custom hardware added to the Xbox One X so that we could actually inventory how games actually use memory, how assets are loaded into memory. One of the things that we learned is that there's a large amount of data that's actually loaded into memory today that is actually not actually used in an individual frame. So as an example, even though they only need to use a very small portion of it. So with that knowledge, what we actually did is we added customization to the GPU, as well as to the Xbox Velocity architecture that allows a developer to only load the portions of the texture that they actually need, like they need it. So what this does is it actually acts as an effective multiplier on the amount of physical memory that you have, as well as because you only have in memory at any time, developers get that much more efficiency and throughput from the actual NVMe SSD. So it overall acts as an overall multiplier of what a developer can actually do well beyond the actual raw hardware specifications.
So from a developer standpoint, do these things need to be taken into account during development, or can developers pretty much just keep doing what they've been doing and they'll just work?
So for some of the features of the Xbox Velocity architecture, all games just naturally add that. As an example, earlier this year we showed the dramatic reduction in load times for backwards compatible titles. Clearly they were written before the Xbox Velocity architecture exists, and they're just taking full advantage of that increased I/O throughput that we have with the Xbox Series X.
Esse foi o feedback professor usava de aula piadinha,
we're really excited by what we've already seen from some of the early titles. We do think there's going to be an area where there's continued innovation over the generation, so we're really excited about the future of this space.
So I think the big question for me and for a lot of our readers is, what does this actually mean for the gamer?
So from a gamer's perspective, this ultimately means virtual elimination of times, or much more vibrant, more diverse. You know, if you think about open world things, it's really about the diversity of content. So now it's just keep me
So what does this mean for games that are also developed on PC, as will be the case for most of the first-party Xbox games, and for the Series X games that are being played on current-gen Xbox hardware? If the game is designed with in mind, what does that mean for when it's being played on those other platforms?
So, with the Xbox philosophy and structure, many of the same technology and the same concepts that we're innovating on with Xbox Series X, we're bringing those to the PC space as an example. So I mentioned Direct Storage. Direct Storage is a new capability that's part of the DirectX 12 Ultimate family. So those same APIs, those same capabilities are coming to PC. Similarly, as things continue to advance in the PC space, we'll continue to look for opportunities to bring that into the console ecosystem as well, to make it easier for developers so they have one set of capabilities across the so that they can really just focus on making their game.
Awesome. As a primary PC player, that sounds great to me. So for more on the Xbox Series X, thank you, Jason, again for joining me. And right here,
o DN lá do Omelete, quando eles vão fazer transmissão de evento, eles fazem pelo Discord, porque um transmite a tela no Discord, o Discord é bem real-time, tá ligado? É bem rápido a transmissão. E aí eles um vem pro Discord e o outro fica na live. Pra não ter diferença de...
Eu vou ser o transmissão de costume.
Ever since Assassin's Creed started leaping around in time and space, there has been a long-standing itch to see an open-world stealth action game. Consider that itch sufficiently scratched. Is an absolutely gorgeous adventure through one of history's most strikingly beautiful landscapes, which you get to liberate with one of the best blade-to-blade combat systems the genre has ever seen. There are some stumbles when it comes to stealth, enemy AI, and a few general minor frustrations, but for just about every moment where Ghost of Tsushima falters, there are plenty more where it soars.
Tô mexendo no produtor de algum Xbox aqui. Comentando o passamento dele.
Ghost of Tsushima is a fictional tale told with fictional characters, but it's based on the very real invasion of Japan by the Mongol Empire in 1274 that began on the island of Tsushima. You take control of Jin Saka, capably acted by the man in the high castle's Daisuke Tsuji. He starts off as a samurai before a disastrous defeat quickly teaches him that perhaps the honorable but restrictive ways of the samurai code might not be enough to deal with this new existential threat. Ghost of Tsushima revolves around this inner conflict as Jin's formative teachings push up against his need to save his homeland at any cost. It takes a little while to really get going, but it's a compelling struggle, even if Jin himself isn't the most charismatic of protagonists. The English voice cast is great all around, though it's a shame that the excellent Japanese audio track comes off as a comparatively cheap dub with wildly mismatched lip flaps. It's not a huge issue, as it's still well worth playing in Japanese, especially to check out the black and white Kurosawa mode in all of its film grain glory. What isn't ever a bummer is the music, which seamlessly shifts from quiet and ambient
eles estão falando aqui pra fazer VR. Pra botar o Discord no OBS. Abre uma imagem na captura do Windows e você bota o Discord na captura do Windows.
O Discord na captura do Windows?
É como se você captura sua desktop, basicamente, na desktop, e você leva e abre o Discord. Ele vai estar capturando o que tiver aberto no desktop.
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and the entire library and as witches brews tend to be. The result is massive. From the outset, it's pretty basic. Light attacks, heavy attacks, a block button, a dodge button, all stuff that will sound familiar. The glue, though, that holds this combat system together and allows it to remain interesting the whole way through is the addition of stances, each of which is suited to deal with a different weapon type.
Eu tô lendo aqui, tem programa não, o próprio browser, ninguém precisa instalar nada. É aquele tal de
Tsushima is fast, chaotic, tactical, and feels true to the fantasy of being a lone, hyper-skilled, but outnumbered samurai. The little touches also go a long way toward combat's exquisite feel. In addition to bringing a little bit of visual spectacle, you barely see the on-screen HUD, and the camera always stays on the action.
Você botou
coloquei lá no
you know when to dodge or block. And fatal attacks often end like this. But the most rewarding part is that there's no traditional level-based stat progression, which is great, and here's why. When you get stronger in Ghost of Tsushima, it's not because invisible numbers went up and now you deal more damage and take less when you're hit. It's because your techniques got better and now you have better ways like blocking attacks that you couldn't block before. Learning to use those techniques effectively feels awesome. As a result, you won't ever run into that problem of wandering into an area or taking on a quest that you're underleveled for because you haven't done enough grinding. You'll never get one-shotted by an archer who's 5 levels higher than you, or have to spend 5 minutes chopping down a sword equivalent. This system really impressed me because Ghost of Tsushima what point of the campaign I was at. Enemies do get tougher.
Mas tem alguém ouvindo na live? Sword,
armor, and charms to meet the difficulty curve.
Não, eu tô vendo no Xbox, tá ligado?
To hard mode, which makes enemies more aggressive, but it never took away from the lethal.
Parece que é bom esse método aí.
Não, aqui no Twitch, né? Ele não funciona na Twitch, né? É Facebook, YouTube e
Ghost of Tsushima is so good because Jin's ninja-inspired stealth does not hold up its end of the bargain. It works on a very basic level, but the real problems arise once you get spotted. Enemies just don't know how to handle it.
Segundo canal, sei lá. Deixa eu ver se
It's like if you do anything other than just fight once you break stealth, the AI just throws up its hands and says, Jin's stealth tools are also very rudimentary and don't allow you to use creativity that might make stealth a little more exciting. None of the flexibility and versatility of the melee combat is found in the stealth gameplay. Fortunately, Ghost of Tsushima offers a way to make going loud right out of the gate just as advantageous as picking off a handful of enemies unnoticed, and it does so in the best possible way, staying true to its samurai cinema roots. At the beginning of most combat encounters, you can trigger a standoff, which allows you to target one of your enemies in a classic showdown where you've got to wait for them to make a move to attack, and then strike with one of your own to take them down in one hit. You can even chain standoff streaks to take out more enemies. By the late game, I was taking 5 enemies out at the start of every fight.
Alguém fala alguma coisa aí pra mim ouvir?
Alguma coisa?
Of course, there's nothing, and you're surrounded by a bunch of angry men with sharp weapons. So it's an all-around fantastic mechanic that not only fits with the samurai theme,
Sabe
but
pode
also
ser?
takes the
Sabe
fun
pode ser? Vou botar Vou botar
waltzing in through the front gate of the
o notebook ouvindo vocês no notebook, estão ouvindo vocês no notebook. Vamos ver se funciona. Vou botar no microfone.
Open world games can often put landscapes there are, and Ghost of Tsushima is right up there with the best of them. It may not quite meet the promise of its 2018 gameplay reveal trailer, but this is still a stunningly gorgeous game with great open world design. It takes care to not disturb the view with obstructive UI to point you towards locations of interest, and instead uses subtle cues to direct you. Side quests are more interesting than usual because there are actually several different types. The first and most common are your typical garden variety quests. These are largely forgettable, but at the very least they don't feel like they're just being churned out and used as padding. More often than not, they're thoughtful enough to take unexpectedly dark turns, and occasionally present interesting multi-part character-specific side quests that basically span the entire story arc and let them reflect an aspect of Jin's own journey. It's very interesting to see both how they develop and the impact they have on his own development. Some of the later ones are especially touching and deal with some pretty heavy subjects. One in particular makes exceptional use of Ghost of Tsushima's scouting mechanic in a very clever and emotional way. Tales of Tsushima typically reward you with charms that boost a certain aspect of your character, allowing you to spec into different builds, whether it be a stealth build, these charms are a great incentive to complete side quests. But once I had pretty much all the charms I needed later on, the Tales of Tsushima lost much of their appeal from a reward standpoint. Finally, there are the Mythic Tales. These are epic side quests that are obtained by listening to a musician tell their story via these awesome animated Sumie cutscenes. Their rewards are among the best you can get, but even without those incentives, these quests are still some of the best moments in all of Ghost of Tsushima. My favorite thing about exploration, though, and something that I especially appreciate as someone who's not typically big on collectibles, is that every major collectible has both a worthwhile reward and a fun mini-challenge tied to it. Whether it's the button-pressing challenge of the bamboo strikes, or the signature Sucker Punch-esque platforming sections leading to shrines, I was always eager to seek them out. When I was done, I looked for a New Game Plus, but there is none. So, post-game wise, there's not much to do outside of hunting collectibles and finishing up leftover side quests. Also, replaying from the start on either a harder difficulty or in Kurosawa mode is a little aggravating because you can't skip. Finally, can we talk about photo mode for a second? I've been dying to talk about photo mode all review. Ghost of Tsushima's photo mode is one of the best I've ever seen, partially because the world is just so pretty, but also because of the unique touches that Sucker Punch added, like the ability to have animated background environments, or to add a large selection of particles like leaves, fireflies, or even songbirds. My one disappointment is Jin's emotions, which, well, lack emotion. Ghost of Tsushima is an enormous and densely packed samurai adventure that often left me completely awestruck with both its visual spectacle and excellent combat. By steadily introducing new abilities instead of stat upgrades, its swordplay manages to stay challenging, rewarding, and fun through the entire 40 to 50 hours that it took me to beat the campaign. There are a few areas lacking in polish, especially when it comes to enemy AI and the stealth part of its stealth action split, but this is still an extraordinary open-world action-adventure game that solves several issues that have long gone unaddressed in the genre, while also being just an all-around samurai slasher.
Alô, testando. Alô, testando.
While I still have you here, check out some more of my favorite shots from photo mode. And for more Ghost of Tsushima, check out 18 minutes of 4K gameplay. And for everything else, keep it here.
Agora foi.
Alô, teste 2. Teste live.
Isso aí. Teste de som duplicado. Testando. Som do Skype e o som do OBS. Não? Entendi. Então, duplica. Nossa.
Já vai ser os 4.
Não, legal.
Por isso que, provavelmente por isso que o roxo tem que ter um MDI. Muito provavelmente por causa disso.
O overlay.
o formato
into a rolling field of red flowers, and then you move into the next space and cherry blossoms are falling everywhere, and you move to another and you're seeing the most golden sunset you've ever seen in your life. Every frame is just soaked in so much color, but used so judiciously. It's not like this game is overwhelming you. It's not like it's just some Jackson Pollock painting with color thrown everywhere messily. It all feels so ordered and structured. This really speaks to the design intent that the developers had when they designed Tsushima. They specifically said that they wanted to create a world of natural, moving beauty set against the structured world of Japanese architecture. And I guess that's another feature of this game's beauty. The rendition of Japanese villages and towns and temples are all just as beautiful as the landscapes themselves. And when you combine the two of these things, it's just, yeah. I mean, I know I'm using a lot of hyperbole here, but I mean, you're seeing it for yourself, man. Just tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm not. What adds to this visual splendor is the movement that exists in everything. Every space moves. It's almost never still. You'll see flowers swaying in the breeze. You'll see the petals of those flowers floating about and circling at your feet as you walk through them. You'll see the fireflies buzzing at night. You'll see the ember of flames dancing. You'll see rain falling and pooling, and you'll see tree branches groaning as you move through this world. And what's particularly remarkable about all of it is that it sort of responds to you in a way, because most of this movement is driven by the wind, and you actually control the direction of the wind by virtue of your objective marker. So in Ghost of Tsushima, when you set a target on the map, the wind will blow in that direction, so you can just move that way, and you will see the entire world kind of move with you toward that direction. It's strangely powerful to feel the very winds of Tsushima carrying you towards your objectives, and the entire world seems to sort of lean towards your goal. You just never get tired of it. You never get tired of seeing that wind blow and seeing this entire world moving this way. It's just so breathtaking so often. The beauty of this world is so perfectly meted out as well, because there's so much to explore, but not so much that it becomes redundant or repetitive. The map is divided into 3 parts, and there are 40 different biomes within those 3 regions. You're never really seeing the same stuff twice. I mean, other open world games I've played, obviously Assassin's Creed comes to mind. They just so preoccupied with creating space, they're copying and pasting huge sections of the map in order to give you more square miles. That doesn't exist here in Tsushima. Every new region that you enter, every new biome you discover is genuinely rewarding and genuinely new. And I just took so much pleasure in walking around these spaces, riding around them, just soaking them up, because of how beautifully they were constructed and how unique each of them were. Funnily enough, there is actually a Kurosawa mode in this game, and what that is a mode that is a tribute to Akira Kurosawa, who's the, famed Japanese filmmaker. This game is essentially a love letter to him, stylistically, narratively, in so many ways. And so they actually worked with his estate to create a game mode where you can basically play everything in black and white. It also down-mixes the sound, so the sound a little bit tinny, and it has a much harder stereo mix as opposed to 3D audio.
Streamlabs deve ser melhor, não?
Hats off to Sucker Punch for creating this game mode. That really shows dedication. However, it is the most useless feature ever implemented in a video game, because if you rob yourself of the color of this world and its sounds, you're crazy. You know what I mean? So I used the Kurosawa mode for like 20 minutes or something, and I was like, there's no way I can continue doing this, because the world is simply too gorgeous to shade or to put in grayscale, So again, hats off to Punch. Absolutely beautiful work. Love the gesture. But yeah, guys, don't play it in Kurosawa mode. The game is just, it's too beautiful to do that.
Z, falando na minha câmera da Microsoft.
Let's talk now about the open world aspects of Ghost of Tsushima. This is a game that took me
Eu não posso opinar muito, né?
30
Não
to
vou
35
jogar
hours
tão
to
cedo.
finish. I actually finished every single
Mas
side
tá
quest,
dividido,
by the way,
bem
but I didn't
divididas.
tick off every marker on the map. And there's also collectibles.
Mas uma coisa
after
que eu
that,
tenho
which
visto é
can confirm
unânime,
from this out.
que a história ela não
The
é,
minimum you're going to spend 25 to
não é
30
tão
hours on the main
atraente
campaign,
assim,
probably
mas
25
a
hours.
questão
If you do every
de
side quest, it's probably going to take
gráficos
you to around 35. If you want to do every
e as
marker,
coisas
you're
tá meio
probably
dividido, mas
45, and if you
jogabilidade
do every
sempre fica muito
collectible, you're
bom,
probably
o combate é
talking
bom, é
60 hours or so
divertido.
to do
O
absolutely
Ghost of
everything.
Tsushima.
I am someone that is naturally quite skeptical of the open world formula at this point. I don't dislike it, but I also do get bored with it eventually. You know, unless you've got some really interesting hooks to keep me engaged, I'm probably going to get bored and like tap out. I remember feeling that way once or twice with Ghost of Tsushima, where I was
Deixa eu
like,
mutar o meu
there's
aqui
a
pra
lot
você
of
ver.
open world stuff here. Am I having fun?
Será que
I'm
meu
not so
microfone
sure.
mudou?
But then I
Veio
realized that
pro
I
fone de
don't need to be
ouvido.
doing any of this open world stuff, okay?
Foi o meu, não?
Open world bullshit really only becomes a problem when I'm forced to do it in other games, or where the open world stuff is so boring that you're like, oh, this sucks. Ghost of Tsushima doesn't suffer from either of those problems, and I found that when I wasn't enjoying the side content, it was really because I just was sort of missing the main quest, which I was enjoying far more. Because there's no level gating in this game, I can go back to that main quest whenever I like. You can beeline that main quest should you choose. You are not forced to grind. There's no level gating. Open world sort of stuff is essentially
Tá todo mundo
your own
muda.
fault. You know what
Tá
I
todo
mean?
mundo
And you
muda.
can choose to
Eu
play
também.
another way. Having said that, I
Só você não,
really
tá?
enjoyed most of the open world content in this game. Structurally, it is similar to what you've experienced in the past, which is that there's a main quest, there are side quests, there are markers on the map to climb things and unlock things and find things and whatever else. That's all quite familiar. But I do believe that Sucker Punch has put a lot of effort into creating really interesting, unique, fun side activities to help pace the adventure. One of them involves, you know, chasing a fox. You go to a certain
Ainda
location,
tá mudo,
you find a fox
tá
guy, he'll
todo
lead you to
mundo
the location
tá chiando ainda, tá?
go. Another involves training your sword
Tá todo
skills.
mundo mudo,
There's a
tá? Só pra avisar.
bamboo thing in front of you and you have to strike through it in a kind of like Mortal Kombat test
Você
your
tá mutado,
might
então.
moment. One of the really interesting ones is a traversal challenge. There are a number of shrines that are essentially like
Vocês são
mini
todos mutados,
uncharted temples, and you need to climb around them and figure out a way up to get to where you need
Agora
to
sim.
get to, you know? There's a whole bunch of others as well, but I think all of them are actually pretty good. I never remembered thinking, oh, this stuff really sucks. I often
Pelo Skype tá normal.
remark, hey, they've really put a lot of work into this stuff. I like it. I didn't clear the entire map because I'm just not into the whole like, hey, let's clear every map marker thing. But I think those of you that are into that will really enjoy it, and those of you that don't like that stuff can just skip it. Within this whole open world formula and this exploration thing, one thing I really respected was how much the game was actually getting me to use my eyes and actually look around. A lot of open world games fall into the trap of just having your entire UI filled up with map markers, and you don't have to think or look. You just walk over to where the map marker is or the icon is in the UI, you click the thing and you're done. Ghost of Tsushima will lead you to where the quest begins, but it will very often just let you find your way after that. There's one absolutely beautiful quest that I played towards the middle of the game in a place called Old Yarikawa, where there's a demon. There's a demon in these parts, and they leave offerings to him. And I sort of suspect maybe it's not a demon, maybe there's something else going on here. And rather than just give me map markers to find where to go next, I kind of need to look for smoke in the sky, you know, or I get told, hey, you know, this is where you'll find that next thing in an area surrounded by flowers.
Tamo vendo nossa agora se
Look
eu
around the
tô
world. There's no markers
tá
to tell me
16
where
por
to
9
go.
pra mim
I need to ride around, I need to use my eyes, and that's great. You know, there are quite a few quests that fall into that category. Even just world exploration itself, while I'm riding around, the golden birds of Tsushima will sort of like swoop in above my head and start singing, and then I can choose to follow that bird and he'll lead me to, you know, another secret location or whatever, or I can just choose to ignore him and just go about my business, you know. It's not all about following map markers in Ghost of Tsushima. It's not all about following icons on your screen. It's about genuinely exploring.
Lá no OBS, pra câmera do Gabriel, como é que tá? Ele vem automático conforme tá no Skype?
That is way too dependent on UI.
É verdade, né? Porque quando o Gabriel sai, ele ocupa a tela inteira praticamente ali no...
Acho que nenhuma das duas tem 16 por 9. Vou ver aqui, vou dar uma pesquisada na internet aí pra ver se tu faça alguma coisa.
Where I did not love the game
Acho
is
que nenhuma
the
das duas
writing.
tem. Acho que nenhuma das duas tem.
This is a very Kurosawa-inspired samurai tale, where you are a dude and there's a Mongolian invasion and you need to stop it from happening, but at the same time there's all this sort of family drama. There are people that you meet that have their own revenge plots. There's the samurai code and honor and all that stuff. It's very sort of generic, dare I say. You have seen a lot of this before. I think it would have been possible to lean into those tropes while also providing something a little bit more compelling. Really think it does that. There are many stories of suffering and loss and what have you, but a lot of it just kind of feels the same. The writing, I think, in something like The Witcher 3 has these incredible highs and also some lows when it gets a bit whatever. I think Ghost of Tsushima just feels entirely flat all the way through. It's somewhat hard to a lot of the stories that I went through. Some of them do stand out, absolutely, but on the whole, the writing between the main quests and the side quests is just generally flat. It's not bad, and I definitely prefer it to a lot of other open world games that I've played, because it has a sort of maturity to it that I think other games lack. It's taking itself seriously, but perhaps it's taking itself a little bit too seriously.
Cada vez que um sai, a minha às vezes diminui, não sei qual é o Sky na hora que vai aumentar a imagem, não vai aumentar a imagem,
Other games, you just bump into a random NPC somewhere, do something with them for 10 or 15 minutes, and then forget they ever existed. In Ghost of Tsushima, what happens is that I will meet allies, and I will have multiple side quests with them that kind of span a story arc of about 8 or 9 quests. So I might meet someone in Act 1, and I will do 2 or 3 quests with them there, and then I need to progress to Act 2 before I can continue their saga, and it might wrap up at the end of Act 3 or what have you. This was a really great way to keep me invested in that side content, because I got to know these characters well, I became invested in their stories, and I was excited to reach the next act because I could see where their stories led. As I said, the writing isn't top tier, but just the effort that's gone into these side quests, I really commend it. This approach with top tier writing, and you have a winning formula for future open world games, for sure. So writing is like the one, okay thing.
No.
The best thing.
Eu desativei a minha câmera, véi. É porque ainda não apareceu lá na...
I never, in like 35, 40 hours playing this game, I never ever got tired of combat.
Eu não sei se você criar, tem um canal de vídeo lá, tem um canal de vídeo no Discord.
Sucker Punch have done as good a job as they have with combat in this game. So, firstly,
no canal de áudio diz que eu não posso transmitir vídeo. Não posso transmitir canal de texto, né? Canal de áudio.
I can tell you this is nowhere near that in terms of difficulty. And I actually prefer this one the most.
Eu vou fazer um teste aqui rapidinho. Já volto pra ligar rapidinho. Você
não consegue criar um canal de vídeo, porque tem uma opção de vídeo.
And the complexity of their movesets is just incredible. And also the
eu tô aqui no lado do podcast, né?
So you do provide you with genuine depth if you spend the time to master them, which takes a long time given the structure of that game. Then there's Neo 2, which just has some of the best melee combat ever, really. The flexibility inherent in every weapon type across 3 different stances is just mind-blowing. But there's also a lot of bullshit baked into that with, like, enemies one-shotting you or what have you. Ghost of Tsushima just exists at this perfect equilibrium, I think, of combined with the ability to really sort of play the game how you want to play it, allowing for player expression and freedom, without having to rigorously study it to get good at it.
Kits que eu não posso transmitir, você não pode transmitir, não.
Also without any of the
Agora eu tô te vendo, agora eu tô te vendo. Agora
it's just a really nice middle that I think is perfectly accessible while still
Não sei se eu vou conseguir fazer aqui, não sei se eu vou conseguir fazer aqui.
The fundamentals of this combat
live ou entro no live ou celular, entro no celular, câmera 16:9, câmera 16:9.
There's a lot of
então,
similarities.
a gente tá testando pelo Discord, fazer pelo Discord, claro, se todo mundo, claro, se todo mundo. Só que o Thelmo consegue transmitir. Será que é porque eu tô transmitindo aqui já? Será que é porque eu tô transmitindo aqui já?
Hit registration,
não, mas ele tá dizendo que eu não posso transmitir isso. Não, mas ele tá dizendo que eu não posso transmitir isso,
the precision when it comes to, two weapons clashing or something being parried or deflected. But in conjunction with that, the animations are also
não sei, acho que não dos dois. Não sei, acho que não dos dois. Não sei de mim. Não sei, acho que é de mim. Deixa eu sei.
Of an attack that he's deflecting or what have you. It's just so consistently impressive to see that in action. There are
caramba, a imagem pelo Discord é perfeita, cara.
6 or 7 people standing around you, and they're all sort of taking turns to come at you. And yes, like that. There is no lock on here.
Quando você compartilha a tela, é quase real time, tá ligado? É quase real time, tá ligado? Não tem delay, muito rápido, não tem delay.
Without that lock-on, combat just becomes truly free-form and fluid, as I said, much like Batman Arkham Asylum. The central conceit of combat are the stances. There are 4 different stances to use, and you switch between them very quickly by holding right trigger and then pressing a corresponding button. Each stance works best against a different type of enemy. There are going to be swordsmen, there are going to be people with shields, there are going to be pikemen with spears, and there are going to be bruisers. And as you are fighting, you are doing this delicate dance to deflect their attacks, and when you want to break their guard,
eu tô como moderador. Eu vou te mutar no Skype.
In addition to that, there are also plenty of tools. There are smoke bombs and kunai, throwing knives.